What is Universal Basic Income, UBI? UBI in a nutshell is that the government would pay every citizen a set amount of money without any means of testing or work requirement. Democratic Party presidential candidate Andrew Yang has made UBI a central issue in his campaign. Under his plan, every American over the age of 18 would get $1,000 per month, guaranteed. This sounds great, doesn't it? Who doesn't want free money? But the plan raises a few questions, like how would the government pay for it? In effect, everybody takes a paid vacation, and the government writes everybody a check. This is the type of nonsense that actually gets discussed now. Because everybody thinks, well, it doesn't matter, because the federal government is going to pay for it. Now, of course, the federal government doesn't have any money. The federal government is broke. We'll just borrow it. But who is going to be dumb enough to lend it to us? Nobody. That's why the Federal Reserve is going to have to print all of this money. As if all of this money printing isn't going to do any damage to the economy. UBI will become more and more of a discussed topic as artificial intelligence continues to advance. Automation will force UBI eventually. If AI truly surpasses human intelligence, then it will very quickly supplant the entire workforce, leaving all humans without jobs. Not just management but physical labor as well. We are talking about entities that don't need breaks. That never sleep, never feel lazy, and have no problems wading knee-deep in crap all day every day. This, of course, means that post-scarcity is an actual possibility, but only if we do it right. UBI is a start, although we may eventually phase out currency as we understand it today. Also, as transhumanism looms on the horizon, the very nature of society will fundamentally change. In short, the unemployment rate is a product of technological advancement, decreasing the percentage of the population required to keep society as a whole going. This has pushed more and more people into non-essential jobs, like the arts, but as those areas get saturated as well, the capitalistic system pushes greater and greater numbers of people out of the workforce entirely because the economy can't sustain as many jobs as there are people. The rise of artificial intelligence over the last decade has greatly expanded areas of work that require fewer workers for the same amount of product, which has compounded this problem to the point that it's an imminent issue that will be addressed in the next decade or so. Whether it be through sweeping economic reform or societal upheaval. The current tension in the United States might be ultimately traced back to this problem. It is often the case that trouble with the economy fuels clashes on unrelated social issues. The first casualty of UBI is all the hard, dirty jobs. For just one example, trash collection. Why do hard work, or dirty work, when your needs are already met? If companies must pay more to get men to work those jobs, prices will go up a lot. Many will choose to skip trash collection. Stinking mountains of rat-infested garbage will result in diseases that no vaccination will prevent. That is just one essential cog of civilization that will fail. Dookie chasers, plumbers, meat cutters, roofers, and hundreds of other jobs will fail to find men to work in them. UBI is a nuclear bomb for our civilization. No other idea is more stupid. Please note I purposely said men for these jobs. Nearly all women already shun hard, dirty jobs like these. No amount of pay increase will change that. By 2030, you will own nothing, and you'll be happy. Brought to you by the World Economic Forum. Welcome back to the Atlantis Report. You are here for your daily dose of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please take a second to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to also hit the notification bell. As people are asked to stay home and to follow social distancing rules, it is predicted automation and AI will be on the rise to replace many of the jobs lost. Jobs will be vanishing as automation and an army of robots march into our workplace. The idea of a universal basic income, UBI, has recently resurfaced and risen to prominence in global policy discussions, with strong arguments from both proponents and opponents. UBI is defined as unconditional income granted to each citizen, irrespective of work criteria or a means test. A new survey showed, in fact, 76% of all Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, support a guaranteed income. The problems that UBI is supposed to address are real and concerning. Automation is replacing labor at an alarming rate. There simply are not going to be viable jobs for thousands or millions of people. Even Henry Ford understood that if he didn't pay his employees enough, they wouldn't be able to afford his cars. He understood he needed to spread the wealth to keep the system going. There are reasonable arguments to be leveled in good faith against the UBI platform, which Andrew Yang has dubbed the freedom dividend, but what was once considered a utopian pipe dream is beginning to sound more plausible in light of the unfolding tectonic economic and technological shifts. Once you have fouled the monetary atmosphere with QE to infinity, why not print up some more for UBI? UBI works wonderfully with people who naturally work and enjoy benefiting their community. If you do not feed people, they always start a revolution. Suppose you do not give the people land to grow their own food or the means to earn it, the same. It doesn't matter how you twist the legal system in favor of the rentiers, if people don't eat, they revolt. Now, reconsider UBI in that light. The fact remains that the majority of low-wage jobs now have employers breaking the law left, right, and center. Consider how much people in those jobs care about the law when it clearly does not help them when they are wronged. Even the unquestioned Roman Caesars gave out a UBI when there was no work or land to be had. The reason why UBI makes more sense than giving money to wealthy individuals and corporations is that empowering hundreds of millions of people to spend and invest creates a vast capitalist market. Giving it to a tiny fraction of the population to spend and invest is an ineffective anti-capitalist oligarchy. The government and Fed already give free money to corporations, corporate basic income or CBI. Plus, wealth inequality and the Pharisee power base continue to grow without UBI. So I can't see what the deal is. Without UBI, no one will be able to buy anything because no one will have any money left, so it's a choice between pitchforks and UBI. The elite are choosing UBI. I'd personally prefer to take the pitchforks up, but don't make the mistake of thinking there are any other alternatives. They already want another stimulus, at least not in this month. They want to wait and see what we the peasants do with all the money they gave us the first time. I guess they think $1,400 is a lot of money. That doesn't even pay a month's worth of rent or mortgage, talk about utilities, insurance, food, necessities, car payments, etc., etc. I'd like to see them live on that for 2 months. Their rich corporate friends got their bailout. A no-strings-attached income, like the $484 billion they handed to the 2,000 largest corporations and 200,000 richest families. The Fed has dumped over $33 trillion into Wall Street since 2008, and the bailout had $4 trillion for billionaires and multinational corporations, but real Americans get a pittance. Anybody that thinks our government isn't owned by the billionaires is living in dreamland. The 1% are given a guaranteed income in the millions. A UBI for the rich. When Yang proposed UBI, he also called it welfare. Now the government is giving out welfare, but they call it stimulus. The UBI would make workers less dependent on their employers and more willing to competitively seek better employment, but if the minimum wage is removed and UBI becomes the floor for lunch cable income, this would lower the barrier of entry to employing people on both the employees' side and the employers, allowing smaller companies to more easily risk hiring people that they have not had direct experience with. UBI would actually benefit employers in the long run. At least the employers who are not trying to maintain absolute power and control over their employees and abuse them. A universal basic income, when many still have not received their stimulus checks. When millions still cannot register for unemployment assistance. Coincidentally, many large corporate institutions received their stimulus payments on demand, while those who really need assistance are waiting in long food handout lines simply to survive. Most Americans would use the additional income to pay off the massive debt they have incurred because we are being robbed blind by the rich every chance they get. It would allow people that are stuck working 2 jobs to maybe quit one of those jobs and see their families again. One of the main causes of divorce is financial difficulties. Doing this stimulates local economies. It redirects the money that would have been given to the billionaires by the government back into circulation. UBI of $2,000 per month will allow people to meet their basic needs such as food, water, shelter, clothing, etc. therefore lowering the crime rate because people do not have to do stupid stuff to try and survive. People are not going to sit on it. They are going to spend it, therefore stimulating the economy in a much more healthy way than stock buybacks, which is nothing more than artificially inflating the stock market. When people actually buy an item, it is a much more genuine way of raising the stock value because of the simple fact that it is actual demand instead of artificial demand or artificial value. So instead of just buying artificial stock that will rise and pop again by buying actual items, it is creating more jobs because it is an actual item that is being mined for resources, assembled, delivered, and sold. And actually demanded not from the top but from the bottom where it all begins. UBI is here to stay. Many jobs will disappear after this crisis, and retraining people takes time. This is the only fair way to take care of our citizens and bring back our economy. The same people who don't support UBI will never mention unlimited cash bailouts for derivatives ghouls, finance capital parasites, and zombie bankers. Andrew Yang's UBI recommendation are now actually feasible. Horrible that the US is so quick to give money to other countries and businesses, but place hurdles for the common American citizen to get through the worst crisis in American history. Imagine getting money for doing nothing. The free markets are already destroyed. The economy we deal with is a government-controlled system. Most of the real work is done by machines. The government does not work, yet it is huge. The system is so distorted by government intervention that people don't even know what is going on. The fact is there would be huge motivation to work for more money unless the universal income was too large. How long will it take to get back to the world before the pandemic? Some think never. They have good reasons to think like that. Many companies, airlines, cruise lines, hotels, retailers, elements of the service industry, and more will have disappeared, unable to weather the storm. Unemployment will remain high. Marry this to the impending tsunami of technological innovations of artificial intelligence and clever machines just waiting to swamp our manufacturing and service industries. Who will need expensive and unreliable humans? Sure, there will be jobs for a handful, but for the vast majority of us, who come to the workplace needing occasional sleep, and go to the bathroom, get sick, and want vacations. Thank you and goodbye. So what's going to happen to us? It's already happened to tens of millions, principally the ones whose jobs have been shipped abroad over the last 2 or 3 decades. Will we all be left to die without food, shelter, or healthcare? Probably not. So what to do? Get rid of the money. There are other and better ways of exchanging credit. Hopefully, a system which will curb the ridiculous ambitions of a few lucky or ruthless individuals from cornering the market and stashing billions in offshore accounts. All fit and able folk will be tasked with community duties for which they, together with the unfit, the young, and the old, will receive credit. Probably in the form of digital currency. The system will be geared to encourage individual enterprise and learning for extra credit. There will be a base level of housing and healthcare below, which no individual will need to forego unless they so choose. It's impossible for me to realistically envision any other system except a sort of dog-eats-dog dystopia. Why is it we the people have to beg for our tax dollars to help us, but the rich just ask once and get it? For the last few years, Amazon, Delta, and other big corporate hustlers paid no federal taxes. And they should have been cut off that careless act bill for COVID-19. It really included nothing for U.S. taxpayers but giving tax breaks to greedy, entitled-minded businesses. A basic income for 6 months would help out now. Raising wages to $20 an hour after the economy gets better and taxing the wealthy and corporations on 75% of their profits offshore and stateside will pay everyday Americans back. They have benefited in the trillions of dollars in the last 3 years. The American people want that money back. It will be time for companies to cut CEO paychecks and reinvest in the workers again. Placing trillions into the hands of actual people versus corporations ensures that those trillions will absolutely trickle up as we all utilize the bucks to pay bills, buy groceries, get cars repaired, etc. Even if we just bank the cash, it still is circulating as loans then to help the economy. The way I see it, corporations want to keep people in debt and poor and have the trillions put directly into their hands, bypassing the citizens. Give the dough to the people. The big businesses will get it all eventually anyway. Corporations have shown they will spread it throughout their top management while cutting lower-level staff. If people received it, they would spend or invest it in the economy in some fashion, so it would help for a short time. If Americans want to stimulate the economy and boost recovery, UBI will help enormously. Yes, we will always have people who will spend frivolously, but the majority will use this money to meet their basic needs. Economic security will also stabilize society in many other ways as well. There is a lot that has been written about this. Also, even if people made stupid purchases, the money would still be going back into the economy, food bills, and rent, and not to some offshore bank account. The elderly, the infant, and the disabled all deserve the freedoms of the Bill of Rights. These people are paying taxes, give them something. Those that can't contribute to the strong take up the slack of the weak. We don't leave them to die. The money that would go to the people that need this would be coming from the wealth that these very same people have generated for the economy. And will go back into the very economy that generates it. It's not like they are just going to sit on it, they will spend it in that economy. Workers are being dropped regardless. Automation is coming with or without UBI or minimum wages. If you read Chinese news, you will know that hundreds of thousands of Chinese workers are losing their jobs to automation. Even cheap Chinese workers are being replaced. Read the writing on the wall. What do you think will happen to more experienced American workers? Unlike the coupon clippers of Wall Street, who send their money offshore. Wealthy people have guaranteed income from all kinds of sources, and they do not have to work one tiny bit for it. The funny thing is the 0.1% cried out for UBI for corporations. Let's see where this goes. In the near future, over 46 million renters will end up homeless. Over 85% of apartment buildings and rental properties will be empty, and 4 out of 5 houses will be vacant by 2022. The Wall and Wall Street got all the money. The government bailed out insurance companies, big banks, car manufacturers, airlines, etc., but is not willing to bail out millions of renters. Canada did a basic income experiment in the mid-70s in Dauphin, Manitoba. They were hoping for positive results. What they got blew them away. Crime dropped significantly. Calls to fire, police, and emergency services dropped. Doctor's visits dropped. All the kids made it to graduation. There was maybe one teenage pregnancy, and so on. Everyone was happy and content. Sadly, an election saw a change in government, and the study was shelved. It was called Mincome, if you want to look it up. UBI gives the economy a boost. It will benefit everyone. Trickle-up economics. This is absolutely what we must do if we are serious about restarting the economy. Supply-side economics is BS. The economy is driven by consumer demand. If consumers are broke, there will be no demand. The recovery will be slow on the scale of years. The top 20% in just 2020 alone received more than $8 trillion without working for it. And that does not seem to impact their willingness to work or not work. It is past time to trash the notion that getting a UBI will condition people to be unwilling to work. If they had been appropriately taxing the rich and giving people a living wage instead of having 1% people unfairly sitting on billions that we all helped make, then we would have been able to weather any shock to the economy. Because people and the government would have been able to save for times like these. The super rich make millions and billions without working. They get huge tax breaks. But give a poor person some money, and some people go crazy saying this is socialism. Universal basic income with a nationalized Federal Reserve, zero trade deficit, and release of the suppressed technologies. Like lithium batteries that were ready for market in the 1970s. There is so much the tech cannibals have kept hidden from the public. It is about time the American citizens get real economic security as they have in Europe. 14 other countries are doing it, and they aren't as rich as we are. Isn't the US supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world? It's not money for nothing, it's keeping people from poverty. We need this for 1 year straight, at least. The money would go back into the economy somewhere or another. If we can afford to give trillions to banks so they can maintain their lifestyles, why can't we afford to give money to poor people so they can have something to eat? While people starve, Amazon is still shipping products and paying no taxes. Brilliant. We spend way more than we should on corporate bailouts and breaks. We also way overspend on the military. It's time for the people to get a bailout. The corporations have been subsidized. Now, it's time to subsidize the American people. And don't forget the homeless. They need food. They are humans too. People need basic needs met in order to have a future and improve their skills, study, etc. The government can pull trillions of dollars out of thin air for airlines, cruise ships, and other corporations and then grudgingly give the peasants $1,400 and saying, make that last 8 or more weeks. Those airlines and big corporations will still go belly up until customers have money to spend on them. Give the money to the people to spend on what they need. Sitting on the economy, hoping to squeeze every last penny from the people alive today, is neither ethical nor savvy. Do you want to make money? Support the system that supports you. No billionaires ever really made it all on their own. They needed the pocketbooks of millions to make billions. The elite and 1% love watching the working class hate on each other and blame each other as we fight over the crumbs they drop.